cost behavior means how the cost behaves towards the changes in quantity. Okay, the objective one, after you learn this chapter, I would like you to understand the key characteristics of cost and graph of various cost behaviors. Okay, cost behavior, how cost change as volume change. Okay, volume also means quantity, yeah. Okay, and there are three common cost behaviors. Okay, the first is variable cost and fixed cost and mixed cost. Okay, here are the key characteristics of variable cost. Total variable cost change in direct proportion to change in volume. Okay, so if the volume change, then the total variable cost also change, but variable cost per unit remains constant. Okay, this is, remember, the total variable cost change if the volume also change, but the variable cost per unit remains constant, means the same. Okay, and then the variable cost also tells you about the slope. Okay, this is the graph of variable cost. So remember that vertical always shows total cost. This is y. Okay, this is vertical. Okay, vertical, vertical. And then horizontal axis or x-axis shows volume of activity. This is the volume, okay, or the quantity. Okay, so this is the what we call, this is the variable graph. The variable graph, you see the total cost, a total variable cost change if the volume change, right? And the variable cost graph always start from 0. Okay, meaning that if you do not do something, if you don't produce something, then your variable cost will be 0. Okay, if you increase your productivity, the variable cost also increase. If you don't produce anything, if you don't do anything, then the variable cost will be 0. That's why the graph of variable cost always start from 0. Yeah, and then go up here. Note that the variable cost per customer remains constant in each of the graph. Okay, the variable cost per customer remains constant. Okay, so if you, this is the volume is 1,000 of guests. Okay, the guests that you serve. So if you serve one guest, then your total variable cost will be 3. And then if you serve 2 guests, will be 6. 3 guests will be 9, and then 4 guests, or 4,000, yeah. If 4 guests, the total variable cost will be 12. So what is the variable cost per unit? The variable cost per unit is $3 per customer, right? So this is constant. Okay, objective 2, use cost equations to express the predict cost. So we want to make, later we're gonna make the equations, and then this equation we're gonna use to predict the future cost. So this is the cost equation. It's a mathematical equation for a straight line to predict total cost. Variable cost line can be mathematically expressed like this: total variable cost, or y, equals to variable cost per unit of activity multiplied by volume of activity. Okay, so y equals to vx. Okay, this is the equation of variable cost. Okay, this is the same with the previous slides. And this one is key characteristic of fixed cost. Total fixed costs stay constant over a wide range of volume. The total fixed cost is constant. Okay, but how about the fixed cost per unit? The fixed cost per unit increase if the volume decrease. Okay, and the fixed cost per unit will be decreased if the volume increase. Okay, but the total fixed cost will be constant over a wide range of volume. Okay, total fixed cost graph are always flat lines with no slope that intersect the y-axis at a level equal to total fixed cost, and then the total fixed cost can be expressed as y equals to f. Okay, the equation is this one. We do not have any. If in the variable cost you will have the x here, which means volume of activity, but here we do not have x because even though your x is increased or decreased, the fixed costs remain constant. Okay, and this is the graph of the total fixed cost. As you see here, the graph is flat, no slope. It's flat here. Its slope means like whether it is like this or like this, the degree of the slopiness. So here no slope, and then you see the total fixed cost remain the same. Total fixed cost is always 100,000, even though you serve one gas or two gas, the fixed cost is always the same. But how about the average fixed cost or fixed cost per unit? Okay, the fixed cost will be, the average fixed cost will be, if you know, the fixed cost per unit will be, if you produce one, if you only serve one gas, then the fixed cost per unit will be 100,000 per unit. How about if you serve two guests, then the variable cost per unit will be 100,000 multiplied by divided by 2, 50,000. Okay, so if you increase the volume, the fixed cost will be decrease. If you increase the volume, remember the fixed cost per unit will be decrease.